A very warm good afternoon to each one of you. On behalf of BCCI, I welcome each one of you to this special meeting at COE Bangalore. I thank you for your cooperation and also out of your schedule, busy schedule I should say, that you have managed to come here and be with us, where we are going to give you a presentation of our COE, which BCCI has established 2 years ago. I have with me our President, BCCI's President, Mithun Manojji, Treasurer Raghuram Bhatji, Joint Secretary Pravtesh Bhatia, Member of the Governing Council Mamun, and most important person, Head of Cricket in COA, VVS Laxman. BCCI had started National Cricket Academy in the year 2000, and in a very temporary and clandestine manner, we have managed it for last 24 years, up to 2024. We had few pitches there and a small gym, but that was not sufficient to take Indian cricket to the next higher standard when the world is so competitive. And therefore, with the initiative of the Secretary of then Apex Council, Mr. Jaisa, we had mooted the idea that we should immediately take initiative to establish a proper state-of-the-art cricket center of excellence. You may be also knowing that in 2008, a land was allotted for development of cricket in Karnataka, but which was lying idle for long about 12 years and 24, about 16 years. And when we have got the warning that if we do not utilize it, then the land will go back to the government. So there is a condition that land will be allotted to you, but you have to do it within 3 years. But that 3 years elapsed in the year 2011 itself. Nobody took interest to develop anything in this plot of land. And thereafter, in 2009, when Jaisa was the secretary, he took the initiative, he took everybody on board in BCCI's Apex Council and took a firm decision that immediately on a mission, on a war footing, this establishment has to be done, so that the land is also properly utilized and the temporary arrangement of National Cricket Academy no more exists. With his initiative, with the support of the BCCI, and Jaisa also came here personally on several occasions, and they put Maman, who was at that point of time one of the Apex Council member, they cleared all the legal hurdles to start the work, because a lot of regulations are to be followed once we have to start a proper project. And on top of that, we have to regularize the land. That was the biggest challenge, because this kind of land, 40 acres of land was given, and which was lying idle, and a lot of eyes were there to take it back. But against all odds, with their initiative, we have to sincerely thank Jaisa and his team at that point of time. Nobody was there in that Apex Council from 2019 to 2022. So they took extra efforts to get it regularized and started the construction. And on 14th of February 2022, the foundation stone of this wonderful complex was laid. And that was just when the COVID was at the fag end. But during the COVID time also, a lot of activities had taken place to get the things cleared, due diligence was done. After all, a huge investment from BCCI was supposed to be made here. So everything was cleared, the road is cleared, the carpet was laid down, and work started from 14 February 2022. And thereafter, within a period of 2 years, little more than 2 years, on 28th of November 2024, this whole project was inaugurated by Jaisa along with his Apex Council. In that Apex Council, Roger Binny was also there as president, and myself and 2-3 other persons were also there, and we inaugurated it. But the transition was the challenge, and where we have taken the help of VVS Laxman. By that time, he was part of this scheme of things. NCA was running in a very dormant way, I should say. What we are doing here, in comparison, it was nothing at that point of time. But a lot of positive things had happened. It is not that we are brushing aside everything. No. But with that limited facilities also, a lot of developments and lot of things happen, lot of Indian international cricketers come out of that system also. But once we have established this project here in November 2024, within 6 months period from 1st April 2025, this whole project started functioning. The details of which will be given by the head of cricket, VVS Laxman. So basically what I would like to tell you is that why this Center of Excellence has been developed by BCCI. So modern day cricket demands world-class infrastructure, that is the prime requirement, and also an integrated high-performance ecosystem, and that ecosystem will have various verticals. The medical science part is there, the rehab part is there, rehabilitation, the coaches training programs, and various other things. In details, VVS will give the presentation. So the BCCI decided to establish the Center of Excellence with a future-ready facility, because we have run already 22 years, but now we have to continue for next 30 years. So with that vision in mind, and Jaisa was such a visionary leader, he is thinking about India's prospect for 2040-2050. With that thing in mind, so we have established this, which can be compared, and it is in fact the best facilities for cricket development in the whole world, not only above the country. In country, it is undoubtedly number one. But if you compare with the other facilities available in Australia and England, it is much more better than what they are having. And that is why during the course of last 2 years, lot of delegations from ECB and other countries who are playing cricket and top power of cricket in the world scenario, in the global scenario, they have visited and trying to take some finer points from this project so that they can replicate it in their own structure. So BCCI has developed the BCCI Center of Excellence with a future-ready facility that brings coaching, medicine, sports science, rehabilitation, technology, education under one roof. That is our overall scheme of things. That at one place we get everything from coaching, medicine, sports science, rehabilitation, technology, and education. And within those parameters also there are various verticals. So science and cricket has developed much more now. What we are playing cricket at 20 years before, that has nothing to do with in present day scenario. The challenges are more, and we have to be ready to tackle each and every challenge so that we remain at the top of the international cricket. Today, we must express our deep gratitude and appreciation to Jaisa and his team for taking the initiative in laying the foundation stone of COE on 14 February 2022 and opening the same on 28 November 2024 after building the infrastructure on a war footing mode. The key features of the Center of Excellence are a 40 acres world-class campus with 3 full-size cricket grounds of different quality of pitches, 86 practice wickets catering to different formats and conditions. VVS will give you the details, what are the different conditions. Advanced indoor practice facilities, state-of-the-art science laboratories, high-performance gymnasium, medical rehabilitation and recovery facilities, residential accommodation and learning spaces for players and support staff. Already, COA has contributed for the development of Indian cricket and sustained its high quality in international competitions. It has supported the senior men's and women's team, developed India's A and age group cricketers, serves as the National Rehabilitation Center for injured players, also the prehab also for the same players, conducts specialized camps for batters, fast bowlers, spinners and wicket keepers, provides continuous education and certification of coaches and support staffs, and most importantly, it works very closely with the state associations to raise the standard across the country in the cricketing ecosystem. So the details will be provided to you by VVS, and we have a vision from BCCI's perspective that the Center of Excellence is not merely a training facility. It is a huge investment by BCCI keeping the future of Indian cricket in our vision. It reflects BCCI's commitment to building a sustainable pipeline of talent through scientific preparation, world-class infrastructure and continuous innovations. Today also during our conversation with the head, lot of new things he has given us the ideas, and definitely we will work on that which are not being even conceptualized or thought by other cricketing nations. So a lot of new things are being developed which you will come to know after 2 years. But already a system is in place how to take cricket to a different level. The objective is to ensure that every promising Indian cricketer has the access to best possible environment to realize his or her potential. Even now the whole Indian women's team is here. And we are not only providing support to the domestic cricketers or Indian cricketers. Nepal and various other foreign countries, South Africa A team also. Nepal is also going to train here from 12. They have taken the permission from 7. They will be reaching here, and for their whole preparation for the ICC's trophies, they will be preparing for a long period of time. The Nepal national team. South Africa A team has already taken the advantage of these facilities. Now the Indian women's team is practicing here. You can find Harman and all are doing their activities here. So before I close, the journey from the National Cricket Academy to BCCI Center of Excellence symbolizes the evolution of Indian cricket itself. From excellence in performance to excellence in preparation. Now we are most into preparation. Performance is already there, but to sustain the preparation, sustain the performance of the team at the highest level is the biggest challenge. So for that, we have to prepare, and CO is the right place which will give them the platform and the stage to keep the players at their highest performing level. Our endeavor is to create an ecosystem that develops complete cricketers, support every stage of their journey, and ensures that Indian cricket remains at the forefront of the global game for generations to come. With that vision, BCCI has invested, given its time, money and everything, so that we have a proper, not only the brick and mortar facilities in here, but also along with it the software and the human resources which will sustain and take Indian cricket and maintain it at the highest level in the coming years. I am closing here my remarks. I will hand it over to VVS to give you the details how the COA is functioning, and thereafter there will be a Q&A session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Devajit. All good? Yes. No, thank you, Devajit. In fact, you covered a lot of important points here, and a lot of familiar faces. And I think I really first thank all of you on a Sunday morning to come here, to understand what we at the COE do. As Devajit rightly mentioned, NCA was established in 2000. All of you are aware of that. You've seen how NCA has progressed. A lot of cricketers, including myself, have benefited from not only the infrastructure we had at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, but also the kind of programs, the kind of initiatives NCA has taken. And it's an ever-evolving programs. In fact, I spent a lot of time at the NCA when I was a player in 2010 and 11 when I was struggling with my back. And then I realized that, what can be done at the National Cricket Academy. And it was Rahul in our generation who utilized it to the fullest, because being from Bangalore, he used to almost visit NCA each and every day, to not only focus on his skill, but also enhance his fitness, and other aspects of the game. And then in 2021, when Jay and then President Saurav reached out to me saying that, Rahul is moving to the Indian team as the head coach, and we want that continuity. And all the good stuff Rahul started, can you continue? And straight away it was a tough decision for me, which I explained to a lot of you were part of that inauguration in the month of November 2024. but I just want to repeat myself. And as a cricketer, I always thought that it's the responsibility of former cricketers, who benefited through this great game and through what BCCI has given to us, the various opportunities from the age group levels to contribute back to the game. And with that intention, obviously I moved to Bangalore in 2021 December. And then we were operating in Chinnaswamy Stadium till 2025. And as Devajit rightly put, it was in 2022, when the foundation stone was laid. And it was remarkable, sight to see how quickly the infrastructure got ready. In the span of close to 2 years, the entire infrastructure was up and running. And huge credit to Jay, because he was the secretary of the BCCI, and I myself seen firsthand how much interest he used to take in various meetings we used to have with the architects, with the L&T team, to make sure that each and every aspect of the COE or then NCA is taken care of. And it's great to see that the vision was translated into a reality. And I think all leaders have vision, but the vision will only bear the fruit when it's translated into reality. And that reality is what we've seen in 2024 November, and we started the operations from March 2025. And the magnitude of the various activities which started taking place at the COE has gone more than tenfold to what NCA was doing with the limited facility we had at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Now, the name itself defines the transition from a National Cricket Academy to the Center of Excellence. Here are two words I would like to use. There's a different meaning to an academy and a different meaning to an excellence. So what we try to do here each and every day is to strive to achieve excellence. Because when you're representing the country, it's a responsibility on each and every player or each and every member of the ecosystem to strive to achieve that excellence. And I think at the Center of Excellence, each and every member who actually are involved with the Center of Excellence, each and every day we try to upskill ourselves, improve our standards and strive to achieve excellence. And it's an ongoing process. It's a process where you're continuously learning. It's a process where you're continuously evolving. And that's what you expect as elite players. That's what we expect, as probably one of the best centers in world cricket. And as they've just rightly mentioned, there were delegations from various boards, international boards, who actually came and were not only spellbound by the infrastructure here, but were also spellbound and impressed with the kind of activities, the programs, and the initiatives the COE and the BCCI have taken. So I thought I'll present to all of you, but I think it will be too much time consuming. So what I thought was, actually I'll make a hard copy of the presentation, because unfortunately, and I'm not talking about what's happening in the last 1 week or 10 days, which I'm sure you'll ask a lot of questions around that. COE is not a rehab center. There's a bigger responsibility, and mandate given by the BCCI to the COE. And in this presentation, which I've given the hard copy, you will see the various, activities, various verticals we have at the COE. I'll start with the infrastructure, because the starting point is the infrastructure. And we've all gone through the entire facility here, and it is mind-boggling to see this kind of facility. 3 big grounds, different soils. The idea behind 3 different soils, the red soil, the black soil from Orissa, and the local soil from Karnataka, is where we give exposure to the players to adapt and learn how to play on different wicket conditions. Because ultimately that's the challenge we as cricketers have whenever we travel abroad. So if you have to prepare for the Sena countries, you have the red soil, which you almost simulate to the conditions what you're going to get in South Africa, New Zealand, England and Australia. And luckily the weather in Bangalore, and that's one thing which I feel that's probably the reason why Bangalore was chosen, because I've never experienced summer here. In the last 4.5 years I've been here, even though this summer was a little hard compared to the Bangalore standards, but nothing compared to the whole country standards. We never experience summer here, and we can actually have activities throughout the day, throughout the year, which is a great boon. And then we got 45 practice wickets. Again, all the three soils are there, and each cluster has got different soils. We got 8 clusters, and then we got 1 cluster where we have got cement wickets. Now, why do we use cement is obviously when you're preparing for Australia, we practice a lot with wet tennis ball or plastic balls. So on cement track where it's smooth, obviously you get the pace and bounce. So that is the infrastructure apart from your administration block, your dining areas, and the best part about this infrastructure is obviously the state-of-the-art SSM building. All of you must have seen the kind of investment the BCCI has put in getting all those equipments. And there's a reason which and meaning to each and every equipment. It's not only about testing, it's not only about using that for the performance or the rehab of the players, but also to assess the players' progress through the year. So I think it's a real blessing not only to the current players of Indian cricket team, men and women, but for the future generation of Indian players, men and women. Now the second part of that presentation is obviously the performance part. So there are 3 verticals: the performance vertical, the sports science vertical, and the education vertical. Now the performance vertical is, if you see there are 32 camps which we have done from April till date. And if you see there, the camp starts with the selectors, and it's a great collaboration between the COE and the men and women selection committee. Obviously, there's one selection committee for women's cricket. So right from under 15 age group level, under 19, under 23, and senior domestic cricket, the best performers are identified and selected by the selectors. And for under 15 girls, we have 1 camp. For the under 19 girls, we have 4 camps. For the under 23 emerging, we have 1 camp. And for the targeted players, we have 1 camp. And obviously, as Devajit mentioned, as and when the Indian players, the senior Indian women players are available and free, they come here to upskill themselves. Now, the composition of each camp is 25 players. Now, why do we say 25 players? Now, for any camp, to have proper, meaningful sessions, you have to have a distribution of the various proficiency. Now, you have your openers, you have your middle order batters, you have your wicket keepers, you have your spinners. Again, ideally, we want to have off spinners, left arm spinners, and wrist spinners, and then you have your fast bowlers. So indirectly, what happens is the best performers in these various proficiencies are selected by the selection committee. With the men's, we got 2 selection committees, your junior and senior. So the junior selection committee till the emerging, which is your under 16, under 19, and your under 23 tournaments. And one of the important reasons why Indian cricket is at the top of the world map is because of the robust domestic structure we have, starting with Dilip Trophy and ending with the Ranji Trophy in the month of March. The amount of matches each and every player, men and women, play, the opportunities they have is unbelievable. And that's one thing which none of the other boards actually can replicate, or that almost they feel that how can BCCI conduct so many matches. So we're lucky that through the year we give an opportunity for the players to showcase their potential, and from that the selectors select the players. So under 16 we have around 100 or 125 players. Again, each camp has got 25, the same composition, the combination of proficiency won't change. Under 19, again, we have 5 to 6 camps, out of which 1 camp is totally dedicated to the Northeast. That's one thing which the BCCI have emphasized, that we want to improve the standard of cricket and exposure to the Northeast players. So we got under 19 and under 19 girls and boys, where 1 camp is dedicated to the players from Northeast. Then the emerging, which is from the under 23 tournament. There's 1 more emerging where players who play domestic cricket, your first class cricket, Ranji Trophy, Mushtaq Ali and Vijay Hazare, the best players who are below 25 form part of another emerging camp. And then obviously we have got targeted players, which I will explain to you in detail as we go forward. Now, all these camps happened from April to August. Now, at the end of each camp, we have a tournament where, players from each camp, 4 or 5 camps or 6 camps, form a team of 15 to 18, and then there's an inter-camp tournament, and the best performers from that camp, from that tournament, are selected to attend a structured, intense 27 to 30 days camp at the COE. So the best players out of that 100 to 125 to 150 players in each age group through the tournament, inter-camp tournament, are selected. Now, why I'm saying this, the filtration process is very, very critical, because again, when you have so many tournaments through the year, you will have a lot of performers. Now, how do we get a proper, authentic filtration process? Is through this kind of activities, and the best 25 are again selected by the national selectors, and then they come and train here. Now, apart from these camps, now since 2022, and again thanks to Jay, in the past it used to be the only contracted players, and the contracted players, men and women, would have access to the NCA. But in 2022, what we did was we started an initiative where we select the targeted players. Because in the past, it used to be only India A. Whenever the India A series would happen, okay, we identify the best performers from domestic cricket and send them to a series, or maybe have a 4 or 5 day camp before the series. Whereas what we have done is, since 2022, we've selected targeted players, men and women, and the commitment from the COE, and obviously after the approval from the BCCI, is that we take care of them just like the way the contracted players are taken care. And which comes to the next point in the slide: how do we monitor them? So the targeted players this year is a lot more compared to the previous year. Usually it's around 35 to 40 players. And again, these targeted players are divided into proficiency. Your opener, same. We are a great believer in having the proficiency, given more importance, because ultimately, what do the targeted players do? They form the bench strength for the main contracted players. So you have your openers, you again have your middle order, you have your finishers, you have your wicket keepers, spinners, again off spinner, left arm spinner, leg spinner. Then you have your fast bowlers. Preferably, we want the fast bowlers are going to be divided into right arm fast bowlers, left arm fast bowlers. And this is the same which happens with women's cricket also. And this targeted players are monitored by the coaches, the SSM staff of the COE right through the domestic season. So before the domestic season starts, they spend close to 30 to 40 days over a period of 3 to 4 camps, in which we make a dossier for each and every targeted player. The dossier consists of their areas to improve, their strengths, skill-wise. There's a MSK screening done on each and every targeted player to also know what is that they're required to work on. And then there's an NFTC testing done on them. You must have seen the testing on the first floor. There are various machines up there where we can actually test the strength of various parts, of a player. So we use all those, plus on-ground, on-field testing. And then, through the year, we monitor so that they improve on their performance and they get better each and every day. Along with that, we also use analytics in a big way, plus a mental conditioner, because your mental side of the game is probably as important as your skill and your physical side of the game. So each and every group has got a mental conditioner who comes, works with these players, profiles each and every player, and gives to us, what are the areas the player is good at, what are the areas the player requires to get better at, and we through the year try to improve that side of the player. Now, so this is from the targeted players. Now, whenever there is a tour, there are various camps which are, which happen here, which are conducted here for the senior men and women's teams. Obviously, we know how grinding and grueling is the schedule for the men's team. So with the women's team, like as Devajit rightly mentioned, the women's team are undergoing a fitness camp followed by a skill camp before the Asia Cup, which is going to happen, probably in 2 weeks' time. So the women's cricketers, as a team, they come. Now with men's cricketers, very few times, barring once, we had a full-fledged camp for the entire group. But the understanding with me and Rahul and now with me and Gautam is as and when he feels that any player requires to upskill themselves, because as you know, there are players in the contracted group who are players specializing in different formats. So if a test series is happening and someone is getting ready for a T20 or a one-day series, Gautam gets in touch with us. He sends those players here and we get in touch with the respective skill coach, understanding what is that player is going to and looking to work on, because we don't want to be conflicting with what Indian team skill coach is working with that player, because ultimately the player is going to spend a lot more time with them than actually with us. So we understand what is the areas which that player is looking to work on, and then we conduct the sessions and we give a regular feedback to the respective skill coach, and then we discuss with them saying that, okay, this is the observation, do you want to communicate with the player or not? So based on those discussions, we ultimately, engage the player, so that coordination and cohesiveness is fantastic between the Indian team and the COE. So there's been various times when they've come here for upskilling themselves. Now, along with upskilling, they've also come for training blocks. Now, training block is where Adrian, at the moment, who is the head SNC of the Indian team. In the past, it used to be Soham. So as you must have seen, that I've introduced you to the performance vertical in charge. So whether it's Harsha or Tulsi, they get in touch with Adrian or Kamlesh or Yogesh, and any player coming here for a training block, we understand what is that the player is looking to improve and work on. And ultimately, the program is shared by them. We execute that program, and on a day-to-day basis, we inform them what's happening. And information is not necessary through verbal information. That also happens. We have got WhatsApp groups, but the technology part is something which I will talk, where BCCI has invested a lot in technology, where all the information sits in that platform. So that's from the performance side. Now comes the next one is the SSM. Now again, the SSM is just going back now. Various development teams is what we focus on, and I think one satisfying and fulfilling experience for me has been to see the development of a lot of players who were in under 16 or under 19 camps in 2022 to playing for the country and getting a lot of laurels and doing a lot of good stuff for the country. And that's the responsibility of the COE in making sure that the development and the progress happens of each and every group. And again here, I don't want, I tell this, to delegation whenever they come, the amount of investment the BCCI puts in to this development camps from April to September will probably be more than the budgets of a lot of other boards. So I can't share the number but I get the approval from Devajit. I know how much it costs, to conduct one tournament. And there is not even once, since 2022, where whatever we wanted to do, whatever activity we wanted to do for, enhancing the performance of the players has been declined by the BCCI. So that's great, So the amount of investment they put back in this development and pathway progress is unimaginable. And we also take care of the India under-19. Now we know that every alternate year there's an under-19 World Cup, which is great, again, great exposure. And every year almost now, since last 2 years, there's also an Asia Cup. So what happens is, the year where the World Cup is going to happen, the process starts not in that particular year. Like example, this year, in 2027, there's going to be a World Cup for the girls. So our process starts not now. Our process starts the previous year, which is we've identified close to 25 to 30 players in 2025 who will be eligible for the 2027 World Cup. And they come here again through that filtration process. And so because at the development stage, you require to have patience with the development and the progress of the players. So it's not going to happen with 1 or 2 camps. So over a period of 10, 12 to 14 months is when we monitor the progress and development of these players. And that's why, when we play the World Cups, we are much more prepared compared to the other countries. So the process starts almost 14 to 16 months before. And in the year, now example, they did the zonal camps, then we did the COE camps. The COE camp, in fact, is ongoing at the moment as we speak. And then at the end of this camp, they go back and play the interstate tournament. At the end of the interstate tournament, the best performers from the interstate tournament and who attended the camp, the best performers over the last 2 seasons, will be divided into 4 teams in a tournament known as Challenger Trophy. So the best 60 again will be competing against each other. From that 60, we select 30 into 2 teams. We put them, India A and India B, and more often than not, we play a quadrangular with 2 visiting international sides, and then we shortlist from the 30, 15, and plus 5 standbys who play mostly the Asia Cup if it is happening, and then they play a bilateral series in the conditions very familiar or similar to the World Cup venue, and then they go and compete the World Cup. Like last year, we won the men's under-19 World Cup. So the venue was in Zimbabwe. So we played a bilateral series against South Africa, 3 matches in conditions which is very similar to Zimbabwe, and then we went to Zimbabwe. So our preparedness is much better than some of the other countries, and that's the conversation I have with the head of cricket or in charge of the development pathways. Is they don't have the budget, and luckily BCCI gives us the freedom to do everything possible so that our age group cricket is flourishing. The other thing I would talk about the age group cricket is we want a holistic development. It's not only about skill, it's about understanding again, their fitness levels, understanding their mindset, because through these 10, 14 months, it's not the outcome. So it really doesn't matter when you win the World Cup or not. The outcome is never ever the goal. The outcome is how much have these players got better, improved and progressed as individuals and also as cricketers. And I think that is something which is very, very fulfilling because the results have been remarkable. And along with that, now we have the India A program, which is again a very robust program where the India A men, obviously in a year, we have minimum of 3 series. Again, it's sometimes challenging because for us to have a series, the other boards also have to be available and accepting. Like last year, we had 3 series. We went to England, Australia came here, and then South Africa A side came here. Along with that, we'd go to the Asia Emerging Tournament, which is a T20 format, which happened last year in Doha. So minimum 4 tournaments or 4 series happens in a season where the India A or the targeted players, along with some of the players who Gautam and Ajit want from the senior team to come and participate in that series. So great exposure from the India A program. Now what has happened in the last 3 years, we all know how much emphasis has been given to women's cricket. And obviously Jay has spearheaded that entire transition from being amateur, apart from your contracted players. Now you see a pool of players, who are going to represent our country. And I mean, one thing which we won the World Cup in November 2025, and probably one of the satisfying moment was seeing that in D.Y. Patil when India lifted the World Cup, because in 2022 till then I didn't have too much of exposure to women's cricket. But when I saw them for the first time in a camp, the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of intensity, and above all, the kind of mindset they have, it's like a sponge. Their mind is like a sponge where they want to absorb each and everything told to them, and they want to get better each and every day. In fact, some of them are inspirational figures to me. The amount of challenges they had while becoming a professional cricketer to represent the country at the highest level, it's not a joke, And that's why I think introduction of the under 15 age group level, because that's what we understood when we took over in 2022, that a lot of young cricketers, like in men's, I think the flourishing time is from 17 to 22, whereas for women's, we've identified that from 13 to 17 is the important time to give them the opportunity and work on them, because they all start early. So now with the amount of tournaments we are playing, the introduction of WPL, you see a lot more parents encouraging their daughters to play the game, which is a great boon. The more players play the game, the more number of players we have to choose from. And I think that's been fantastic. And there's a lot of India A women's program or the series which are happening. And again, like men's, we have 3 minimum series for them throughout the year, apart from the Asian Emerging Tournament. So I think the India A program is very, very important. The reason being a lot of players, who will be ready to play for the country will be tested in that India A program. So the way we divided is the contracted players who are already playing for the country. You want your targeted players to challenge the contracted players, and some of them is a 1-year investment, some of them are 3-year investment, because you don't know how quickly they progress. So then comes the emerging group, which should challenge the targeted group, and then you've got your under 19, which should challenge the emerging group, and that's the flow of your pathway programs. So the more number of players will be available, which will take Indian cricket forward. And I can tell with a lot of conviction that for the next 10 years, barring couple of skill set in men and women, I think we got enough players who will take Indian cricket forward. It's all about managing them, grooming them, and mentoring them so that they all realize their potential. So that's as far as the performance side is concerned. Now comes the SSM side. I've seen fabulous facility. SSM, again, we've divided into 4 verticals, which I mentioned to you all there. Unfortunately, after Nitin left as the head of sports science, we didn't get anyone who can fill in that shoes or fill in that position. We had Andrew Lepers. In fact, everything was agreed upon. In fact, Devajit had with him 2 or 3 meetings, and everything was agreed upon. And suddenly, Andrew, at the last moment, citing family reasons, backed off. And then we conducted a full-fledged interview process where we had Dr. Dinshaw, Dr. Ashish Soni, and Dr. Rohan and myself, where we shortlisted 5 candidates, out of which the number 1, I don't want to name him, was an Australian. And after selecting him, suddenly he backed out, saying that he cannot move to Bangalore, because one of the important important condition is it's a full-time job. It is not a consultant or a part-time one. You want that person to be here because, like I am here, because it's a day-to-day monitoring. It cannot happen, as a periodic monitoring. Unfortunately, that professional also didn't join. And then there was another professional who was the head of sports science of All Blacks. We engaged with him. He almost agreed, and at the last moment, he backed out. So to fill in that position, you require someone not necessarily of the stature or experience, but the knowledge and understanding of Indian cricketers. So because we didn't get any head of sports science, we've divided, and I think a lot of credit should be given to the professionals who are already in the sports science team, because they have stepped up. So we have got the verticals, 4 verticals: the rehab vertical, the performance vertical, the domestic vertical, and the education vertical. Now the rehab vertical takes care of all the players who are here who are injured. So that includes the contracted and the targeted players. As I told before, in the past it will only be the contracted. Now when a targeted player, men and women, get injured, obviously we get approval from the secretary, and they come here and they undergo the entire rehab protocols and the rehab process. Now the performance vertical is, as I mentioned, the monitoring starts through the camps. They plan everything, and we make sure that the players we monitor, which is close to 150 players through the year, the COE team monitors through the year, 150 men and women cricketers, apart from the contracted. So what happens is we take care of their day-to-day activities and what they're doing. Now a lot of this will happen remotely. The reason is, from October, all these players will be busy playing for their respective state sides. So as and when they are available or there's a break, they come to the COE to work on their skill and to work on their fitness. But it's all remotely monitored. That's why the period from end of IPL to the start of your domestic cricket is a very crucial one for us to assess them, make sure that we understand them holistically and give them a plan which we can remotely monitor through the year. Now comes the domestic, and that's a great initiative, again taken when Jay was the secretary. Now, we've all experienced that. What I was getting in Hyderabad was nothing compared to what I was getting at the international level when I was playing for India. Now there was a big vacuum. What happens at the central level or at the national, international level, and what happens at the state level? So we wanted to have, every association we wanted to have one head of sports science. Like how Nitin was the head of sports science here, we wanted each and every association to have the head of sports science so that we can standardize all the fitness protocols, guidelines, and the processes and execute that through the year. So that a player at the domestic level, at the state level, should not feel that there's a big difference when he comes to the targeted group or when it comes to the Indian team. Unfortunately, through the interview process, we were able to only identify 7 quality professionals. Because again, in all the interviews which we do, the quality is the most important criteria. It's not filling in that position, but whoever is in that position has to be capable enough to execute the responsibility of that position. So we got 7 ZSM, and each Z, which is Zonal Head of Sports Science and Medicine, takes care of 5 associations. And through the year, this Zonal SSM go and visit the states, and standardize, interact with the state SSM staff, and make sure that all the things which is supposed to happen to a state player is the same what happens to a contracted or a targeted player. And that for me has been the game changer, And I think here I should thank all the state association, because there's not even one state association who showed any kind of resistance to what we wanted to do. And in fact, there's a collaboration between us and the state association. Obviously, COE is more a recommendatory. We can only give recommendation. Obviously, it's every state association will have their own decision makers, but there's not even one state association who didn't collaborate with us. In fact, some of the state association we conduct the interviews like JNK. You have Mithun here who takes care of JNK. We in fact conduct the interviews and we select the SSM staff of those of their association SSM department. So it's been great. And also the ZSSM, the other thing which they do is some complex cases which are not able to be handled at the state level, they come to the COE and we take care of their rehab. So the zonal head sports science play a very important role to standardize and to make sure that every player, right from your under 16, under 19 state player to your senior domestic player, follows all the things which we do for our contracted and targeted players. Now that comes the last vertical, which is the education vertical. The education vertical is one of the things which we want to do is to upskill all the professions. So here the physios, the SNCs and the massios, who become a very integral part of any team, are upskilled. So we conduct workshops, we go to the state association, we conduct workshop, we do webinars, we do CPDs, and above all, we do also internships. So every state association has got an opportunity to send those SSM staff at the COE, and they actually see what the SSM staff at the COE do during the camp season or during the whole season. So that's when they get an hands-on experience of what is needed to do to get better and upskill themselves. And I think the process of learning and improving never stops. So one of the endeavors is, can we, the professionals who are at the COE obviously have got abundance of experience, exposure. Can we translate that to the state SSM staff or the other support staff at the state level? So this is with the SSM department. Now comes to the education department. The education department, obviously, as I mentioned, the SSM take care of the upskilling of the physios, SNCs and the massios, whereas the education department, which is existing since 2001. In fact, Raghuram was just mentioning that he was the first batch of the level 3. He was just mentioned first batch of the level 3 way back in 2003. 2000. When Frank Tyson was here and they did. And I can tell you with a lot of, again, confidence that we're not following Australian way of coaching. We've got our own way of coaching now because we are totally different with the ecosystem. It's totally different to what the other boards have. So that's why the BCCI also recognizes our coaching certification. So we have level O. Whoever does well in the level O, gets an opportunity to do level 1. Whoever does well, so 70 is the benchmark. Whoever gets above 70 in the level 1, after 2 or 2.5 years of going and implementing whatever they've learned in the certification course, they get an opportunity to level 2. And again, the similar thing, 70% is the benchmark. And then whoever have done well, it's a level 3, which is the marquee course of the BCCI. Till level 2, all the candidates, coaches are recommended by the state association. Whereas for level 3, it's the BCCI COE who selects them based on the credentials, and there's an objective way of identifying the candidates. And we have got 16 candidates, 16 coaches who come and do an extensive 2-week level 3 marquee course, in which we not only talk about the biomechanics or the skill part, but also the leadership part. Because what we have seen is coaching now, especially at the elite level, is not only about understanding the nuances of the skill, but he has to be a leader to manage various situations, handle various pressures, and also understanding of the sports science, because the coach should know all the other aspects involving the development of a player. And that's the marquee level 3 which we do. And along with that, again, we do continuous workshops. Specialist courses and workshops are held for your batters, for your spin bowlers, or for your spin bowling coaches, fast bowling coaches. As we speak, we are going to conduct in 2 weeks' time a course, a workshop at the COE for your bowling coaches, which will be going to be over 5 days. And these bowling coaches are recommended by the state association, and they come here, and over 5 days, they understand again the nuances and the challenges what a bowling coach face in modern day cricket. So, and then through the season, we evaluate these coaches. We, in fact, give them a chance and opportunity to do all our camps from April to September, and it's a constant endeavor to upskill them. So the endeavor is not only to upskill the players, but the endeavor is to upskill all the professionals who form a very important integral part in making sure that the player develops. The whole objective is player-centric. Ultimately, whatever we do at the COE is obviously player-centric. So I want to finish this by saying that it's been a very fulfilling experience for me, more so working with committed professionals at the COE, because what I have seen is every one of them, I don't want to single out anyone, but every one of them across the 3 verticals, plus the magnitude of this infrastructure, the ground staff, the head of grounds, the administrators, the finance, the accounts team, the head of facility sitting behind, Govind, he manages the entire facility. Everyone are committed, and have shown that, they're not only knowledgeable, they're not only passionate, but, they go beyond to make sure that we are striving to achieve excellence, and live up to the expectations we have. So I think it's been fantastic. So right from identifying the players, obviously the selectors do that, till, we produce the next generation of Indian cricketers, along with managing the current, international players, is the objective and the mandate given by the BCCI to the COE. Again, I'll like to end by saying that, the reason why I extended, a lot of, people here will also know that, in 2023, I was supposed to become the head coach, and obviously because of personal reasons, I was not able to take that up. And I went and spoke to Jay twice, and he understood my reasons. And because of what Jay and the BCCI as the freedom to execute my vision they've given me, and it continues with Devajit and the other office bearers currently. I've extended for 2 years, and I committed to the BCCI that, I've not taken up the head coach position, but I'll make sure that I establish the COE, I'll establish the structure, the processes and the protocols, which I just shared with them, all the SOPs for every department, before I move on, after the 2-year stint. So I think I'm very happy that I've been able, because of the team we have, to establish a very, very world-class, programs at the COE. And again, I end by saying what Devajit mentioned. It's not only the brick and mortar, but what happens is through technology, through the various soft skills and the professionals who are working at the COE, we are able to execute and fulfill the mandate given by the COE. We talked about technology. I didn't touch about that. So we got 4 technologies with us. Number 1, AMS, Athlete Management System. All the records, all the reports of each and every player from 2022, right from all the camps we conducted, is there on the platform. So even after 5 years, if suppose someone wants to see a particular cricketer, what he was in 2022, all we do go enter the player's name and everything about that player. Whether it is skill report, whether it is MSK screening report, whether it is NFTC report, whether it is the mental conditioners report, anything, will be available on that AMS platform. And every day, whatever we do in these camps, it's on that platform. And it's not only for the activities of COE, but also the Indian men and women team. Every session they do, whether they are with the team or not with the team, it's recorded and documented in that AMS. It's a very important platform for the BCCI and for our activities at the COE. The second one is obviously we got GPS, because GPS is nothing but you wear a GPS pod, and any conditioning session, any match or practice session a player is playing, everything through that GPS is recorded, the intensity at which intensity a player has played or practiced, and straight away it is integrated with our AMS, and all the information comes straight into our AMS. And that's the best way for us to track a player, especially if he's not part of the Indian team. And it's great to see Adrian, Kamlesh and Yogesh, as part of the Indian senior men's team. And obviously you got Nick, who is the part of is the SNC of the women's team, and then you got Raki and Akansha. They monitor the players who are not only part of the series as and when they're traveling, but also the contracted players who are not part of the series through the year. And we again monitor the targeted players and the under-19 World Cup players through the GPS, and every data is there on the AMS. The third one is full track. There is one where each and every practice session a bowler participates in. I'm sure a lot of you must have seen broadcasts, and there is a feature known as Okai where you know what are the line and lengths, where the bowler is bowling, the pitch map, everything in the practice session. We get that information, and straight away the bowling coaches, wherever the player is, that report comes to us, and we remotely monitor through evaluating that the report and talk to the bowlers. Any session a player participated, there's something known as an on-form, where the videos of that sessions are captured, and straight away it is on our AMS. So we get to know everything a player does through the year through this 4 tech. And I think the AMS is a very important platform where everything is documented. Each and every session a player does is documented on that platform. So I think it's great, and thank you again, to the BCCI for making sure that this vision of all of us has converted into a reality. And I'm sure that we are always on the path of learning, always on the path of reviewing and getting better. But I think we started a very, very beautiful journey, and I think that journey will only get more and more beautiful when everyone in the ecosystem understands the vision and sticks to the guidelines and the protocols. And I think there's not been one cricketer across the board who didn't appreciate or didn't follow the protocols or the guidelines we set in place and expect from them. So I think that's why it's been a remarkable journey for all of us. Great. But I think you can all go through this, because this has been obviously captured in a much more elaborate manner.
Thank you, VVS, for a very elaborate presentation of all the activities of COE. Thank you so much. and I hope everybody has got to know that what exactly is happening in our this Center of Excellence. And I hope there is no question left because he has covered everything. All the nuances, all the nitty-gritties of COE has been very elaborately explained. But still, if you have any questions, you are free to ask.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't understand.
You were talking about the
Oh, Nitin. Okay.
yeah, hurdles in trying to get a Nitin Patel replacement, and because of which in the previous months all the others had to step up the game. So how far or close are we from getting a replacement for Nitin, or will this kind of arrangement that is on will continue?
No, I think the lookout is there, but you have to find someone who is qualified and capable enough to take up that position. I think that lookout is still there. So we require to definitely fill in that position, and the suitable candidate has to be identified. And I think that lookout is still there.
When a contracted player in India international cricket gets injured, what is the line of communication, reporting here and going back to the team, especially we have throughout the calendar, season is going on IPL and even our state T20 leagues,
Yep.
stuff. What is the process from reporting here to going back to the team?
Yeah, I think that's a good question and important question. So the process starts with diagnosing the injury and finishes with a player declared fit after the 2 RTP matches we have. So diagnosing, obviously, wherever the player gets injured in whatever environment, if it's in the Indian team physio understands the nature of the injury, and then we got experts and specialists with whom we have got a year-long connection. Like I'll tell you, Dr. Ruhan is the one we go as far as stress fracture for the back is concerned. Dr. Dinchaw is our go-to doctor who is based in Mumbai for shoulder, knee, in fact, a lot more injuries. Then we got Dr. Keeney, who's a foot and ankle specialist. We got Dr. Warrior, who is our hands and wrist specialist. And then we got 3 doctors, one in England who takes care of the surgeries of ankle, one doctor in Munich who takes care of the sports hernia, and one doctor in South Africa who takes care of, again, provided we want to explore that. Now we got 3 specialist interventional radiologists, Dr. Muthukumar, Dr. Srikant and Dr. Kini, who are the ones who read the scans and tell what is there in the scans. So that becomes the first part of diagnosing the injury. And once that diagnosis happens, then those players through the Indian team SSM staff is sent to the COE. And from the time they come here, the 2 things which we do, obviously we clinically examine, assess them. Based on that assessment, we know what is the plan of action for them to recover and go back and join the team. And the second thing is, so the physio plays a part. And once the player is ready for the next phase, which is your strength and conditioning, then the SNC comes and plays the part. Now, once the next phase starts after the SNC, slowly they go to the skill part, and then we build up the load, and then we play 2 RTP matches before we declare the player fit. Now, what is important, as I mentioned, through the data we have, we know the benchmark of each and every player from the skill, from the fitness point of view. So until unless that benchmark is not met, or in fact got better, we don't release. So that's a benchmark we use to declare a player fit. And the whole idea is that when he goes back to the Indian team, men and women, or wherever, including the state teams or whatever the teams he's participating, he has to be up and running, and from the first match, he's been able to perform to the best of his potential. Now, it's an objective way of assessing the player to move from one stage to the next stage. And this is where I think it's very important to understand that the guidelines and the timelines are given based on what you expect. But it's human body. It is not a machine where the timelines will always be met. So there's a continuous process of understanding how a player is progressing, and based on that, the load is increased. So that's a process from the time they are diagnosed with the injury to the time they leave the COE and are declared fit. Yeah.
In the recent past, we have seen some of the cricketers opting for individual trainers.
Oh.
Yeah, I see the news on that. So does do the cricketers get back to the COE on this, or how does COE deal with this?
Okay, so this is news to me, and I think there are a lot of news which is happening. But as I told, the way we do is the Indian team, SNC, is responsible of keeping a track of the contracted players. The SNCs at the COE are responsible to keep a track of the targeted and the age group players, and everything is there on the AMS. Every session of the player is there on the AMS, and that's why we use the GPS, wherever the player is doing, whatever he is doing is documented out there. And if you see the men and women team's trainer, now Adrian is a world-class trainer. In 2002, I remember he was our first foreign fitness trainer. And the quality of him, has got no questions around his quality. So I'm sure he knows how to manage the contracted players. And now Nick, who recently joined the Indian women's team, is again a very experienced SNC professional. And again, all these professionals are not only experienced, but they're knowledgeable, and their understanding of each and every player in their respective group is there. So I think the trust and the coordination between the SNC and the players, as far as my knowledge is concerned, is going on. So if you're saying something else, that's news to me.
Just want to know, again, in the recent past, because of the injuries, there's been a lot of talk around the COE not doing this stuff. But our players don't really have an off season. So when they come here, they work obviously on their injury management. They get fitness and certificate and go back. But they pick up some different injuries as well. So why does it happen? And is it a cause of concern for you as well?
I don't think it's a cause of concern, but obviously when someone is playing at the elite level, you're supposed to give more than 100%, because if you're not, then you're not doing justification to the role or for what purpose you're selected in the team. And there's no doubt that the modern generation of player has to play a lot more cricket than probably when I used to play the game, obviously with the addition of T20, the 3 formats. But that's when all the initiatives which COE and the SSM staff has taken, it will benefit them. As I told it's not only for the contracted or the targeted players, it will benefit even the state players. So I think ultimately injuries are part and parcel of any player, and I just want to reiterate that when you're playing at the highest level, you finish your whatever series, from that series to the next series, you automatically work hard on getting better, on getting fitter. Even though you do that, with playing at the highest level, you can get injured. So if you're thinking about not to get injured, then you're not playing to the best of your ability. So I think one thing which should be addressed, and I think that's changed dramatically, is how you see injury. Do you see injury as a negative thing, or do you think injury is part and parcel? You obviously get better in and evolve in the processes to take care of the players, but injuries are bound to happen. And I think that's why the monitoring system is very, very critical. And I've got no doubt that Adrian and Nick or Kamlesh and Raki are doing that when they're playing for the country. You get injured. So we have to understand that it's part and parcel of playing international cricket, with the intensity you expect them to play.
So just one obvious segment here. So just in the case of Bumrah Sai Sudharsan, they were like named to the squad, and unfortunately they didn't get the fitness thing. So does it like sort of entire blame is like why did COE like sort of give them the fitness thing before they got picked? So does it help if selectors don't pick a player because they are like fully fit?
Okay, so I think we don't like to use the name blame, because when you're using the blame, then you're finding someone as a scapegoat, So I don't think, so maybe I don't know what you all feel, and you start blaming because of this and because of that. But there's a brilliant coordination between the COE, between the team management of both the teams and the SSM staff of both the teams and the selection committee. Now you're talking about Bumrah and Sai Sudharsan. When we send a fitness status report, and the process is that the selector reaches out to the COE asking for the fitness status report, and we collect the current fitness status and send a fitness status report to the selection committee chairman or chairperson in women's selection committee with a copy to obviously the head coach of both the teams and the BCCI. Now, Bumrah and Sai Sudharsan, there's always an asterisk, and this is one thing which you all will know, that when the media release comes from the BCCI, there's an asterisk attached to a player selection. And what does that asterisk mean? It means subject to fitness. So Bumrah and Sai Sudharsan were going to be picked to Sri Lanka subject to fitness clearance. And as I told before, you assess them, you move them from one stage to the next stage, and if the progression is slow, you communicate to the selection committee chairman and the head coach, which is happening seamlessly, and they understand that they're not yet ready to participate in an international series. Always it's player-centric and team-centric. So that communication is happening seamlessly. So the subject to fitness is something we require to keep in mind. Any press release, and I think what the BCCI has done is there is transparency in all the fitness reports and also the selection. At the end of the selection, whether it's it's a release to the press, it's clearly mentioned that these players are picked subject to fitness. Means if they don't clear the fitness test here, that means the selectors will know who are the other players who will go in their place if they don't clear the fitness test. I mean, it's basic common sense.
Just to add to your question, we basically have our selection meetings at least 3 to 4 weeks before the team departs. So therefore, 3 weeks before or 4 weeks before, we do not know the exact status of the player. Therefore, that asterisk subject to fitness is given because that particular player is under a program of rehabilitation. So if he gets fit within that period of 21 days or 28 days, he will be taken into the team. So that is precisely, we do not outrightly reject him because on the date of selection, we are rejecting him because on that day he is not fit. But by the time it will be effectively required for the travel or to play the match, by that time he may be totally fit. So in that situation, we always keep that subject to fitness condition. So we do not deprive the player also. And this is very uncertain that within 21 days he will get fit or not. Nobody can predict that, as VVS has rightly, it is a human body. It is not a machine. So he may take 14 days time or he may take 28 days time, subject to his own body composition. Thank you.
Somebody like Nitish who spends a lot of time away from the game, probably in Germany. How does the COE ecosystem sort of help him stay mentally strong in this circuit? I mean, he's a young guy, he wants to play, but he's not available most of the time. How do you handle all that?
Yeah, I think the mental side of a player undergoing rehab or getting injured is something which we always require to keep in mind. So the player also knows that he's got injured. The player also knows that what is that he requires to do to get fit and be again participating in the commitments. Now from the COE side, we make sure that we make the player understand the workload. In this case, it's Nitish. Being an all-rounder, obviously, there's a lot of workload on him, and how he becomes fitter, not only when he is playing various tournaments, but also when he's not part of any tournaments. And I think it's an ongoing process now of getting better, from your fitness levels, because everyone knows, now you go to IPL, you play state franchise, and then you start playing the domestic cricket or international cricket. So while you're playing the matches also, unlike before, where there's an off-season where you actually can get better at your fitness, the player should know that while playing the matches, how he productively and meaningfully uses the breaks to get fit. So I think the conversation with Nitesh is injury is part and parcel. What is that you can do to get better to handle the workload of being all-rounder? And it's across the board. It's not only Nitesh. Across the board, you want to tell, and that's why the screening at the start of the season is very, very important. Because if you see in the presentation, the parameters we have for all the fitness tests, the NFTC test is mentioned there. So all the players, all the contracted players and the targeted players come, before the start of the season, and they undergo, a string of fitness tests, which you must have seen with various machines up there and on-field activities. There's one new introduction which is fantastic, and Adrian got in that, which is your Bronco test. As I mentioned, that while you're playing, it's very important for you to remain fit. Now, yo-yo is one test which we test the player is anaerobic capacity. Now, yo-yo can't be done when you're part of a series, because it can be really grueling for your body to recover. So the Bronco test it becomes like a conditioning session. It also indirectly tests the fitness levels, the anaerobic fitness levels of a player, and that's taken on board across the various age groups, and we do that through the season, so that's something which can be repeatable.
You mentioned that the report for NFTC test
Yep.
and when injuries of these numbers on scale, numbers happen, does it force you to fasten the process?
Yeah, I think we done a very extensive interview process. As you mentioned, Andrew was part of the interview process when Nitin was selected in 2022, and that's why we reached out to Andrew the moment we got to know that Nitin didn't want to continue, or his term was getting finished. And Andrew, as Devajit mentioned, he'll tell, almost agreed and then backed down. Now the second interview process was an extensive one, and you're happy to, I can share. The first candidate was from Australia. The second and third candidate are already working at the COE. Now it's our responsibility to upskill them while looking to identify someone of that stature and experience and knowledge. So that process, it's not that the BCCI is not looking out for the suitable candidate, but you have to find the right candidate.
In fact, it's a rare commodity to fit into that position. So we have our technical persons who are at a certain standard. So the person who will be heading the sports science department, he must be much better than them. So there are very limited persons, not only in India but across the world. So therefore we are facing some problem in spite of repeated processes being done. We are not getting the right candidate. So because of the shortage, and a huge shortage I should say, we are not getting the person, but the process is on to find the right candidate.
When we talk about excellence, let's take the center of excellence. There are two athletes in India we talk about as being excellent athletes, Virat Kohli and Neeraj Chopra. What would it take for our cricketers to reach that level of excellence, say a Virat level of excellence, and be there consistently to deliver consistent performance? So that's one question to you. And secondly, this is your second innings, and traditionally you have been the King Kong of second innings. Tell us about your high point in your second innings.
Okay, I'll come with Virat's question. I think there's no doubt that Virat is an exemplary professional, and the standards he sets for himself is something which he tries and goes out each and every time he plays whichever team to meet those standards, and that's why he's a great role model. And I think a lot of youngsters or players want to emulate him, and that's been again one of the high points. Is I see a lot of youngsters. I don't want to again name them, but everyone who's here, and the benchmark we set is the benchmark of the best. And that's why you'll have the NFTC parameters. It's not only about the fitness, but it's also the attitude. The attitude with which a role model plays, displays, and that's why they are known as role models. Now coming to your second question, now the highlight I've already mentioned that first realizing and being part of the vision converted into actual execution has been the highlight. Because we were operating from that facility at the Chinnaswamy, which was great, and it still contributed a lot of cricketers. But this is an unbelievable world-class influence. So I was part of that transition. The second thing was, the development of a lot of young cricketers. Again, it's not the trophies you win. Trophies are the byproduct of what systems, the processes you set. And those systems and the processes are something which is in your control, and you can focus and in an objective way understand whether those processes are working or not working. And the trophies are a byproduct of the hard work and the processes and systems you put in place. The third one is understanding and being involved with women's cricket. And I think that for me was something out of my comfort zone, out of my understanding. And I think in the last 4.5 years, the amount of involvement I got into women's cricket is something which I will treasure. In fact, Amol and Arman wanted me to be there on the ground, when we won the World Cup. I was there in the BCCI box, and I enjoyed watching from there the whole celebration. And I was probably one of the last ones to leave, because again, any vision you set in, any goal or ambition you establish, and if that bears the fruit, you feel really happy about it. So I think Indian women's team winning the World Cup was probably the high point. So there are a lot of high points. Actually, watching the youngsters. I mean, all of you, thanks for coming again. I tell, but with this magnitude of the infrastructure from April to September, the entire infrastructure of such a big scale is filled with players, and that watching right from under 16, under 15 player to your elite contracted players like Arman out there, Indian women's team out there, men's team coming, targeted players coming, to see them work on their game, to see them get better each and every day, it can't be more meaningful than what I've experienced. So I think that again is a high point. And I think all these players or all these activities will only strengthen Indian cricket, and all these players I'm sure will get a lot more laurels to Indian cricket, and try to be the best players they can be, and we always aim to be the best team in world cricket. Yeah.
Given the amount of technology that goes into keeping the player fit, is there any kind of a workload advisory given to individual players?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, through this technology, you understand the workload, and all this is there on a regular basis on the AMS. The bowling workload for a fast bowler, and I think our learning is the stress injuries or the injuries happen not because a fast bowler is bowling too much. It happens that a fast bowler is not bowling enough. And I think that's a critical part for all of us to understand. So there's a sweet spot we have for each and every fast bowler across the contracted, the targeted, and the under-19s. And there's a weekly monitoring of that load. So you give them X number of deliveries which they have to bowl in a week, and then through the GPS which with the players wear, we get the information whether they have been able to fulfill that or not. So there is a lot of emphasis on monitoring the load, and I think through technology, through various tools, we monitor that. And I think remote monitoring is something which is very, very critical, because and it's tough, but at the same time, it's an evolving thing for us. How to remotely monitor a player when he's not in front of us.
This question is to the secretary, sir. Do you know the weather happened here, like last year? And you mentioned that one of the conditions to have this facility was that we would not have fans galleries. But Tribune also has a lot of business fans want to watch. So is there a balance that you can find, like say, at least play the final in the stadium? Because it also involves a logistic because there's 6 teams here. So is there a balance that you can find?
Yes, I agree There are some restrictions while this land was allotted here that we cannot have crowd in this state campus. So that is a government restriction, we cannot violate that. But very close persons of the team members, they can come. But this year we have increased the number of matches to be telecasted live. That way we are giving the fans to watch their favorite players and favorite teams performing into the trophy. That is one way, and we will definitely appreciate your suggestions that whether the final can be hosted in a stadium or not. We still have time, we will look into that aspect. If required, we will do that. But for the time being, what we have done, we have increased the number of matches which was telecasted prior to this year, very limited. We have enhanced the numbers now. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your coming here, and I once again wish you all the best for the coming domestic season. We want your support, not only domestic but the international matches also. While thanking you, I request all of you to have